Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Andrew Scaff. He's Mike Werman. Today we're going to talk a lot about the Super Bowl that happened over the weekend and discuss our bets in the finale of our betting contest. Mike, the Super Bowl is a big spectacle as a whole. All new advertisements, big halftime show, in the game itself. Did the game and all the events around it live up to what you expected from the night?
Well, I would say the game did for sure. The commercials were funny, some of them, but most of them were just kind of trotting out celebrity after celebrity.
Yeah,
Um, I was really underwhelmed by the halftime show. I
really.
didn't I didn't think it was Rihanna, it turned out she was pregnant, but that's all that anybody was interested in. Was she pregnant? Because she looks like, she sort of
Yeah,
half-assed all the dancing and like didn't
yeah,
do anything. Like the show would have been just as much spectacle without her as it was with her. Like she added nothing because she sort of like half-assed the lip syncing, and like they could have just played her tracks and
yeah.
had a picture of her up there, and it would have been just the same. So like I wasn't like people were, I don't know, it seemed like her like show was pretty popular, but it's like there weren't any like guest people. Like I guess it was like coming down from a high platform, but like it wasn't anything that Rihanna did at all. Like she was
Yeah,
strapped to this thing and it came down, and then
yeah,
she sort of like did the halfway version of the dancing that everybody else was doing, and she like adjusted her makeup at one point, and like it was, yeah, I thought that it was pretty underwhelming. There was an article. Did you read the article on the Ringer that said
mm.
that Rihanna quiet quit her halftime
Oh, really?
show? Yeah. So I was like that, like, but it seems like I really liked her. I was like, maybe it's just not my demographic, but like it wasn't like, I expected like her to like do some like dancing or have some sort of personality. But Rihanna doesn't really have a personality. She's just kind of like this stone faced kind of like cold kind of person, at least in my opinion. I don't know. She's not like, I don't know. There's not a lot of personality to her. Like I don't know. It's just not. It's like maybe she's regal or something like that that people enjoy, but like I find it cold and
Yeah,
not terribly uh captivating for me. But
yeah. Well,
some
they,
people,
they
I'm
played
sure.
they played like her big hits, and you got to hear them anyway. And there was the big visuals of like the platforms moving around and stuff. It was pretty impressive, at least anyway, right?
Yeah,
The feat of having actually doing all of that during a football game is kind of impressive.
yeah, it's one of those things like it's like the Olympic opening ceremonies.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, that's sort of
they
impressive,
don't
but
they don't tear that all. They don't set it up and then tear it down
yeah,
like in the midst of a game that happens on that same field, though. That's
I guess that's true. But it's also something that you admire the person who put it together as much or
yeah,
more than the people who are in it. And we're supposed to admire Rihanna for being in it as if that's what she came up with. And like, she doesn't write her own songs. She doesn't play her own instruments. She didn't even do her own dancing, and she didn't do the architectural designs. Like, what are we cheering her
yeah.
for? Like,
It
okay,
is. I mean, it is. It's all in an entire industry built around her, though, in some way, though, right? I mean, whether she came up with
yes,
it herself or she probably paid for it, because they
no,
don't they don't get a big stipend for those events. Like
I
they
guess,
get
yeah,
some money for it, but I think the actual artists end up putting like a great deal of money into it because they don't even get paid for it. I don't believe so.
it's a lot of publicity, I guess. But I like
Yeah,
even some of the other like halftime shows that I've been on recently that I haven't really like. I don't care about the halftime show at all usually, unless it's
yeah,
like maybe it's like a, like when the Rolling Stones or U2 were in it or something like that, or um. But like, yeah, I don't. I just didn't have a. Um, I wasn't wowed in the way that a lot of people were wowed by that.
no,
But I'm not the target audience because I didn't. I watched the Super Bowl for the game. I don't watch it for the commercials in the
yeah.
non-game stuff. So, um, but it
Just have
seems
a
like
very
you were a
a
little bit
very
more
high
impressed.
standard. That's
You were a
all.
little more impressed by the halftime show than I was. I think.
I think so. Yeah. Apparently, more than even that wouldn't take a whole lot. It doesn't sound like
Yeah,
so.
it was just like also they wore puffy outfits that were kind of shiny, and
Yeah,
it had a, I don't know. It was I like I guess the choreography was fine, but like I would have been more impressed had Rihanna actually done some of that choreography herself or danced at all, like rather than just kind of stand around while other people do it and lip sync to songs that were already pre-recorded.
Right.
And it's like, okay,
That's fair.
it's snippets of the stuff that you could hear on the radio already.
Yeah. I guess if you really want to just listen to the music, you should just listen to the music, and
Yeah.
having it done there isn't really that meaningful.
But I guess maybe that's what concerts are like. They're spectacles like that, I suppose.
Right.
But like usually they have like guest people that do kind of something that adds element of surprise. But there wasn't any of that. It was just like
Yeah, there weren't any guests.
a
Yeah.
massive like nameless, faceless dancers. That
Right.
yeah, it left me unmoved, I guess.
So how about the game itself
The
then?
game
Not
itself,
okay with the you were just sort of all right with the commercials. Halftime show,
yeah.
not so much. The game itself, Chiefs struggled in the first half, had a nearly perfect second half.
Mhm.
How did the game sit with you then?
The game was closer in a way that I like it went in a way that I didn't think it was quite going to go. I thought
Mhm.
if um the Chiefs were going to score a lot of points, it was going to be a lot of Mahomes throwing for lots of yards. And that's not really what happened. Although maybe you could say it could have happened, but the Chiefs just never had the ball in the first half. That they scored 14 points, but one of those was a defensive touchdown, and
Right.
there was a missed field goal. I think it was wrong to go for the field goal at all. Even if they had made it, it was still wrong to go for it because of the Eagles
Yeah.
going for every third down, going for every fourth down, basically, and just holding on to the ball. And I was surprised that we'll talk about this more, but Hurts was such an effective passer. I think they
Hmm.
challenged him to be a passer, and he completed a lot of passes, some long passes that he to Devontae Smith and one to AJ Brown for a touchdown that I was yeah, not expecting. I thought that the Chiefs could maybe, if they held the running game in check, they would also be able to hold the passing game in check because it would have been predictable that the Eagles would have
Mm.
passed it. But that's not really what happened. Were you surprised about how the Eagles were able to move the ball and able to, I guess, hold on to the ball so easily?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe the thing that may have been more surprising was the Hurts fumble wasn't really caused by anything obvious, at least anyway. Um, had that not happened, that would have been a much more difficult game to overcome. How things were going, at least anyway. Um,
Yeah, because it was
that
14
was
to 7 Eagles at that point, and they
mm,
probably would have driven down the field, at least gotten a field goal. But I guess maybe you could say, well, the Chiefs might have had the ball back and maybe able to get an offensive touchdown or something. But yeah, it was surprising. And like, yeah, that fumble really, it didn't seem like it was even going to matter the way the Eagles were moving the ball, though. Like but
mm.
it turned out to be very important points uh, scored in the first half to keep the game somewhat close. Were you surprised that the Chiefs decided to kick off to the Eagles rather than taking the ball themselves? They always like to defer and get the ball at the end, but the Eagles are like the notoriously kind of front running team, and it's what
Hmm.
they did the whole game. They were ahead and they were able to just hold on to the ball. Would you have kicked off if you were Andy Reid, or would you have received?
Yeah, I think they tend to just kind of play. They play the game they want to play, and they don't care who their opponent is. I think yeah, if they strategically went at teams based on their opponent, they probably should receive in that case, just to make sure they can't get out to a lead and put things in motion, at least anyway, so they can be trying to like run downhill the whole game instead of having to fight back. So, but that's always been the Chiefs in Andy Reid's like mentality is if you win the toss, receive in the second half. They seem like that's always what they want to do, no matter who they're playing.
Yeah,
I don't think it's right in this case, but
yeah, I guess the idea was you would get the ball in back to back positions potentially.
Mm,
and that didn't end up working out. But I guess it did work out in the fact that the Chiefs were able to get the ball first, at least in the second half, to cut the lead
mm,
down to three very quickly, and that
mm.
really changed things. Once it was back to within three, I thought it felt like the Chiefs were kind of out of it, especially after Mahomes got hurt towards the end, like or re-aggravated that injury.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he
yeah,
didn't look very good popping up from that hit towards the end of the first half.
yeah.
It
What were you
was,
thinking about that? Were you thinking he was gonna? Were you think you gonna see a Henny appearance, or did you think he was Mahomes was just gonna go back in?
so I think if they got the ball back before the end of the half, that we would have seen Hemi. But because they got the heads, like once they managed to keep the have Philly keep possession through the end of the first half, that meant that Mahomes was going to have enough time to get treatment, maybe another shot, maybe some other kind of treatment, at least retape everything. So um, I assumed he would be back unless there was,
Yeah,
an actual like his foot was no longer attached to his leg anymore scenario, right?
yeah.
Like he was going to be back out there
I
after
think
the
so.
after.
I think that long halftime helped as
Mm.
well. So I guess maybe I was poo-pooing the Rihanna performance, but her lengthy, if lackluster, showing was something that allowed Mahomes's ankle to be taped up enough or retaped up enough or whatever, maybe a little bit more recovery time than he otherwise would have had. It was a full half, but like, yeah, how much the Chiefs had the ball like 7 minutes maybe in the first half
Yeah, I
total.
was just looking at the
It
numbers. That
was
was the other. They had like a 3 minute, 22 second drive, 3 minute, 12 seconds for the first touchdown. Yeah, for 2 minutes and 22 seconds, missed the field goal. And they only had a minute and a half on the punt, and a minute later, so which also was a punt. So yeah, touchdown, missed field goal, punt, punt, where there were four possessions in the
so
first half.
maybe 8 minutes total, the 22-ish.
Oh, five. Yeah, about 8 minutes.
Yeah. So like almost like maybe like 30% possession time, 70% for the Eagles, and then it came out, I think, out to be about even maybe in the second half, but still it was the Eagles holding on to the ball, and a lot of that Chiefs second half time of possession was just at the end when they weren't even trying to make yards; they were just trying to grind down the clock with kneel downs and
Mm.
McKinnon slide to avoid scoring. I'm one of those people who think I guess that's a good play, but you also don't want to turn down automatic points.
Right.
Like, because
But
Bucker had missed a
knowing
field
how it
goal.
knowing how it ended, it was the right or
Yeah.
an acceptable play, right?
Because partly the way the grass was, because everybody was slipping. You saw Jake Elliott fall down on a kickoff. You saw Butker miss that field goal. And
Mm.
it was like, because I have no idea why the field has to be painted all that much. Like, I maybe small logos where the kickoffs are, but like
Yeah.
those logos were giant for 57. They were bigger than the NFL logo in the middle.
Yeah.
It was like
Can't they just
like
project those onto the field for the TV? Like it doesn't they don't actually have to be on the field, right? I mean, what does it matter?
I don't know who they're advertising for. Like,
Yeah.
we know it's the Super Bowl and we're watching the Super Bowl. There's
Yeah.
nothing that like needs to be said, or like they could put it on the side, or like they could put it on the sides, like the
Underneath the tarps that they stand on, stuff like that.
or like on basketball courts where it's like they'll have the smaller logos like on one side of one side of the court, uh like not like in the middle, like not like in the middle above, like below, so like they could have been on the 35-yard line, but there could have been one like near the sideline or the other, near the other side. So like it could have been like diagonally represented rather than just like three big like blobs in the
Yeah.
middle. Um, and that seemed to be where the field was maybe in the worst shape. We could talk about the field a little bit. That was a terrible surface to play on. It looked like.
Yeah.
What? Why do you think it was so bad? And why can't the NFL have a better field for the Super Bowl?
I don't know why they don't just. I mean, they project the first down markers on the screen. It's like seamlessly. Like you don't see people's like feet disappear into the line, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Why do they not just do all the advertising in that same manner?
But
You
yeah,
know?
but it wasn't like even advertising for like a company. It was advertising for
Yeah.
Super Bowl
But
57, which
for
we're
the game
already
itself.
watching. It's like,
Right. But I mean, if it's just projected on, you can do
yeah,
whatever you want with it. I mean, you can project every square inch of the whole field, and it doesn't affect the gameplay. Like the surface itself would be
yeah,
unaffected because it's not actually doing it. It's not on the
yeah,
surface. It's not real. It's just a virtual advertisement. So, but then
yeah.
they could change the ads whatever they wanted because it's just for TV anyway. Who
I
cares?
wouldn't want that either. I would rather just have smaller, more tasteful logos if they had to add have had extra ones, and don't necessarily put those right smack in the middle where
Yeah,
everybody is playing all the time. You don't need to have them between the hash marks. You could
yeah.
have them on the outsides.
Well, the only thing you really want to make sure is that the advertising itself doesn't physically affect gameplay, and it did in this case, right? There were lots of players that slipped or had actually
Yeah,
fallen over because of the playing conditions of the surface itself, and
yeah.
that was due to the advertising. It seemingly
But it was everywhere on
really
the field
caused
though.
it.
Really, they were
Yeah,
slipping, but maybe slightly more on the ads. But like it was just a bad like it's one of the systems where like they have like they grow the grass on like this tray system that they
yeah,
pull in and out, and that just makes it bad. Like I think they need to maybe have the Super Bowl where there's a permanent grass surface. Like, I guess maybe you can't have that in Arizona simply because
it's like
it's
130 degrees in the summer.
yeah, I don't know. Like that would if it had been played in Miami or someplace that wouldn't have happened because it
Wouldn't
would
think
have
so.
been a grass that had been like grown into the actual earth that they or Tampa or like
Yeah,
rather than having it on this like surface that they wheel in and roll out. That just seems like a disaster waiting to happen. And
yeah.
um, the grass was really bad for the Chiefs in Arizona the first game they played. That's what McDuffie got hurt. Bucker got
Mm-hmm.
hurt on the grass, and I was
Kyler Murray spent a lot of the season with injuries. Also,
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if that was like due to the surface there too. I'm not sure.
But yeah, they said they had grown it just for the game. Like it was like a super. They were really impressed by it, but it was a terrible field that yeah, it looked like it was like like you could just see like divots coming up every time that people ran or made a cut, and it didn't seem like the Chiefs. It seemed like the Eagles maybe adjusted a little better because they said the Eagles changed their cleats at least to longer ones,
Yeah,
where none of the Chiefs ended up changing. But I don't know if that helped or not. But that was the field. The condition of the field was, I think, the worst part of the Super Bowl. Um, what was that? What was the worst aspect of the Super Bowl in your opinion?
yeah. I mean that. Yeah, anytime the field itself becomes a part of the game in a negative way, that can't be a good scenario. I was going
I,
to ask you, what did you think of the officiating in the game?
yeah, that's what some people thought was not so great. The controversial call, I guess, was the defensive holding call towards the end, which essentially allowed the Chiefs to run most of the clock
Mm-hmm.
out, and it looked like a kind of iffy call, but they showed more of it early. Like it was a pretty big jersey grab when they showed like on the replay when they're showing the replay Greg Olson was complaining about but he was complaining about this kind of maybe secondary later hold that could have been called that was maybe more ticky-tack but the one before that was like he grabbed his jersey and he was trying to get away and
Yeah,
Bradbury did um and Bradbury admitted later that he says well yeah I grabbed his jersey I was hoping I wouldn't get called and it got called so even
yeah,
and like Sirianni wasn't terribly upset about it either. Like it was seemed like it was an obvious call, but like I think just it's the people that because the Chiefs benefited from another penalty in the previous round,
yeah,
which was I'd say was another obvious penalty call.
yeah,
I think the pushing out of bounds is probably more obvious and egregious
yeah,
than the hold, but I think both of them were still. I think the Chiefs on the whole though probably did not get the benefit of the doubt on officiating mistakes or errors because I think both of the like sideline catches that one that Goddard made and the one that Smith got that actually got overturned. Both of those could have been overturned, I think.
Hmm.
Um, they the almost Bolton almost had two return touchdowns, and that could have almost been that was called a reception on the field.
Catching a fumble or
Yeah,
an incomplete pass.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think they made the right call on that one. Just not philosophically for me. They made the right,
Yeah.
but they made the right call, like given how that is usually called. Um,
Yeah.
the Chiefs have had some calls like that benefit them too, like when Kelsey was it against Jacksonville or against maybe it was towards the end of the season. He lost the ball a little bit like that where he just barely caught it. Um, I guess in the Jacksonville game, I guess the Chiefs did get a fumble when it was a little bit like that Hurts fumble where the guy was just you remember the guy who was kind of going in towards the end zone and just dropped the ball after he caught the pass from Trevor Lawrence,
Yeah.
and then this Jalen Hurts fumble that he just I
Just
think
lost it. Yeah.
yeah, I think he was worried that Bolton was coming after him. He wanted to switch hands so he wouldn't fumble it, and then he fumbled
Yeah.
it because he didn't want to fumble it.
When he kind of kicked it away from himself and into all of the all of the offensive players that were like somewhat nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
So
unfortunate
it was
for
very similar to that Mahomes losing the ball in the Cincinnati game where he just was trying to throw it and just like dropped it and then he couldn't fall on it because his leg was hurt. So like Cincinnati
yeah.
just landed on it and fortunately for the Chiefs they didn't just Cincinnati didn't just return it for a touchdown. But
Yeah.
we're yeah. So what did you think of the officiating?
Yeah. I mean, I think the holding call, I don't like seeing calls like that, happen at all if you don't have to. But I mean, because it's a thing like where the officials are having more to do with the outcome of the game than in general. I want to see. I want to see the game be won and lost by the players in the field, having they not have the officials making that many decisions that have such a big effect on the game. Like the catch, fumble, return touchdown. I mean, they actually took points off the board that the Chiefs, had when they called, from what they called on the field itself, which I guess, in itself is a play that the officials called too initially, but then they changed their minds and reverse the call. It's just I just think the officiating in general has too much control over the outcome of the game for my liking for a sport in general.
Yeah, I guess you could say, well, at least when on the touchdown that wasn't ended up not being a touchdown, at least they let them play through it,
Yeah.
and like they didn't just blow it dead quickly and then like nullify a chance that. So
Mm-hmm.
they seem to do that more than they used to. They used to be much more quick to blow whistles on borderline calls rather than let the borderline call play through and then realize, well, we can always back it up. We can always go back and check the replay.
If they let
Um,
it play, yeah.
yeah,
So at least
and
at least they've graduated to that level, but they're still making decisions that have such a big outcome, a big effect on the game's outcome itself.
I was surprised there were so few flags actually, given the history of Carl Cheffers with the
Sure.
Chiefs. I guess it's a different, it's not Cheffers' normal crew that works with him. It's
Yeah.
an assembled uh, crew, but it seemed like there weren't that many penalties called on either team.
Mm-mm.
I think there could have been a lot of false starts called on the Eagles because they always leave early. Like on those quarterback sneaks, like it seems like half the line is moving ahead before the ball is snapped, or Lane Johnson is moving back before the ball is snapped, and those seem to be called a lot less this year than previous years, and I'm not sure why. I guess I also am a little bit irked by uh, the rugby play that the Eagles always run on
From
third and one, fourth and one, and it seems like it
yeah.
defeats the purpose of football. And it's just like pushing a pile, and like basically Hurts can't be down ever because he's just on top of people, and there's
Yeah.
no way to judge him down unless you blow the whistle, and everybody's just pushing him ahead, and it's
Well,
just like crowd
that's
surfing and.
one of those things that they just changed the rule to make that even possible. You weren't really supposed to be able to push the player
Mhm.
that has the ball forward.
Yeah, they would.
which
Yeah,
now
it
they
was.
can. And
Yeah, I think they should go back and not allow it because you can't have a defensive player push a defensive player into anybody or things like that. I don't think in the
right,
same way. So like they've made I would say that maybe that's going to be reviewed because the Eagles seem to
yeah.
benefit from that so much. And a lot of Hertz's like stats came from those uh plays that he it was just running those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and you kind of wish that maybe Mahomes could do that, but the Chiefs didn't because Mahomes dislocated his kneecap on a quarterback sneak 3 years
Several years
ago.
ago.
that that's not the Chiefs never try that anymore.
Yeah. That's so those are just plays that are just out of the playbook now. They don't
And
even
yeah,
care. I don't think. Yeah.
and that's why the Chiefs have been so bad on 3rd and 1 because there's no danger of really a sneak. They I think on 4th and 1 they're pretty okay, but like on 3rd and 1 they don't ever seem to get it, and then they punt a lot. So like
Yeah.
it's that's maybe the weakness in the Chiefs offense right now. Um, were you surprised at all about how well the Chiefs handled or the Eagles defense, or how poorly perhaps the Eagles defense played in the second half? They were supposed to be, you know, a very strong unit with set, with really pressuring the quarterback and sacking the quarterback
Mhm.
more than any team had in you know almost 40 years.
I think a lot of that is like the quality of the opponents they played over the course of the season. Somewhat artificially making their defense look better than it was because they weren't really facing that like the big time quarterbacks for most of the season. I think the two games they really played like top tier quarterbacks, they gave up a lot of points. It was 33 points to Green Bay, who wasn't playing well at the time, and 40 points to Dallas, Dak Prescott, and
Yeah,
now 38 points in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. Those are really the three best quarterbacks I think they faced the entire season, and those quarterbacks were able to find lots of ways to get yards and score against the Eagles. But I mean, for the most part, the Eagles' offensive line was really strong through the game. There were two sacks on the Chiefs side,
yeah, both of
but
them
they
were
were
just
both kind of chasing out of bounds and
2 yard
like
losses or something
right.
by
I don't think they were
uh
actual tackles. I think they were the nearest player as Hurts went out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. So,
yeah.
but Hurts didn't spend a lot of time, getting hit except on, run plays or finishing the run.
Was that a product of the field conditions that maybe pass rush was kind of minimized? Was like maybe you could say that we talked about the game that the Bengals played in Buffalo, the
The
snowy
Bills.
game, where their offensive line, which was really um, kind of patchwork and not terribly good, held up against Buffalo in in Buffalo, but then against the Chiefs, they allowed all sorts of pressures and sacks. Um,
Mm.
Maybe that was what happened partially, do you think? Or
It did seem like the game plans for both teams were not having either quarterback hold the ball for very long, in the pocket at least. I know with Mahomes possibly re-aggravating an injury, trying to avoid re-aggravating an injury. They didn't want him to stand back there too long and risk getting hit, especially anything around the lower half. And it seemed like Hurts was getting rid of the ball pretty quickly most of the times. That he would drop back. That wasn't a designed run play at least anyway. So I think a lot of it may have just been game plan more than anything else. But because somebody really was standing around long enough to get a blindside hit or something like that, right? The
yeah,
Chiefs were mostly rushing four players. Not there weren't a whole lot of blitzes.
yeah, I didn't see a lot of blitzes either.
There were a
Uh,
few, but not a whole lot. Yeah.
I think they did a little. Yeah, it seemed like the Eagles were always rushing 4 too. They
Mm.
weren't blitzing very much. I think the Eagles like to rush 5 usually, but they only rushed 4 because I think Mahomes would have picked apart only 6 people back
Hmm.
there, even more than he did having seven guys back there. But it was a yeah, it was an interesting game where I was I thought it might be high scoring, but it was high scoring in a way I didn't quite
Yeah.
expect. Um, but yeah, maybe that'll we can you want to talk about our bets a little bit and how
Sure.
those figured out. So we this was a our Super Bowl betting extravaganza spectacular. Involved us betting 1,000 imaginary dollars on the game. Most of the bets were our traditional kind of $100 bets, $700 worth, seven bets each on some of the bigger, uh, I guess, bigger bettable items, including our usual spread and over under. And the game ended up being 1.5 points. The Eagles were favored by 1.5, and the Chiefs won 38-35, so they won by three. So we ended up both betting on the Chiefs, and so we both got those. Any what were you worried that were you worried the Chiefs were going to win?
I think at the half I was a little worried, especially knowing seeing Mahomes not looking so hot. Uh, coming off the sideline in their last possession. But it always just seems like the Chiefs are always in the game no matter what happens. So I wasn't super worried about it. I mean, it was definitely a nerve wracking second half to watch it as a fan of the team that's playing in the Super Bowl. From the betting perspective, though, I mean, yeah, I mean, I thought that they would still win, but you never know.
Yeah, I was more relieved than anything when they won,
Yeah,
but I was, yeah, I didn't. I thought the Chiefs would score points, but I guess I just didn't expect the Eagles to play
to
um,
score that much at least,
as
anyway.
well and score as many. I thought I had, yeah, I thought the Chiefs would win, but yeah, I thought like unlike you, I did think it was going to be a fairly high scoring game, so I bet the over 50 and a
Mm-hmm.
half, and you ended up going under, so I got that one. What do you think tipped it to the over rather than the under? What was different about the game uh, than you expected?
I think a lot of it was Philly's success um, on offense most of the time, right? I mean, the Chiefs kind of look more like their old selves, like from a few years ago, like scoring relatively quickly, and then the opposing team playing a possession game, trying to just grind and grind and grind and hold the
Yeah,
ball and make sure the Chiefs don't have the ball so they can't score really fast. So they must have been nervous about their defensive ability to stop the Chiefs and they want to just make sure to have the ball as much as they can. Um,
yeah,
so I think that's kind of how it ended up playing out. But I didn't expect Philly to have that much success getting into the end zone. I thought maybe the Chiefs would get some stops, force some more punts, or at least
hmm
more fourth down plays to
yeah,
have the option to punt or try to go for it. Because I think Philly goes for a lot of fourth downs in general. We didn't
hmm
really have that many opportunities to go for fourth downs.
yeah. They didn't need to. They got every basically most of the third downs they converted with their quarterback sneak. They had a lot of third and shorts. Um, the one time they had the third and one, they had that false start penalty, and they
Mm-hmm.
backed them to third and six, and then that's when Hertz fumbled it because they couldn't just run up the middle; they had to do something a little more creative.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, yeah, I was surprised about that. It's also I was also a little surprised that Philadelphia had all the big plays, all the
Mm-hmm.
long, like other maybe than that first touchdown pass to Kelsey, which is maybe 25 yards or something like that. It seemed like every big play was the Eagles, at least long distance was. They had two long passes, one to AJ Brown in the end zone, one to Devontae Smith almost.
Nearly to
He
the end
was
zone.
yeah, and then he just kind of fell out of bounds. And then like almost on the sidelines and kind of big third downs that were like third and
Mm-hmm.
15, but they got 19 or something like that. So I was a little I was a little surprised about that. I thought I wasn't yeah, it was higher scoring than I thought it would be, even though I thought it would be um, over 50 and a half.
Were you surprised that the two longest plays that the Chiefs had were rushing plays, not passing plays. Pacheco had a 24-yard run. Patrick Mahomes had the long 26-yard run late in the fourth quarter.
Mm.
Those are the two longest plays that the Chiefs had. That's
Yeah,
pretty
I guess I was
surprising.
thinking one of the passes to Kelsey. Oh, was it only a 20? It was only a 22-yard pass. I was thinking it
22,
was.
yeah.
Uh,
It was
I'm
a
not.
beautiful catch. It was a beautiful catch though too. The
Yeah,
catch
it was a
to all
wonderful
of
throw. It
perfect.
was a yeah.
Over the
I
shoulder
was
grab. Yeah, on the run. Yeah, that was perfect.
yeah, I was surprised. I guess about that. I wasn't surprised that Pacheco had a longish run, and I guess I'm not surprised in the abstract that Mahomes had a pretty good scramble. But yeah, I would have guessed that Mahomes would have had a you know 35-yard pass to somebody or something like that. I guess the Chiefs did have that long punt return from
Hmm.
Kadarius Toney that was the longest play of anybody. It was 65 yards. It was the longest
True.
punt return apparently in Super Bowl history. Were you
No,
surprised that that was the longest punt return in the Super Bowl?
I am surprised by that. I assumed that somebody would have run one back for a touchdown from longer than that.
Yeah,
Seems like that's a thing that happens sometimes, and that does seem surprising. Yeah, so 65-yard return.
yeah. I would have guessed like in there would have been like an early, especially at least in the early days, like would have been a lot of punt return touchdowns. Apparently, there are historically 10 kickoff return touchdowns
Hmm.
in the Super Bowl history.
Hmm.
So, but that was there have been no punt return touchdowns. So 10 kickoff returns and zero punt return touchdowns.
Hmm.
I'm a little surprised there have been that many. Yeah, there have been that many kick returns, but no. That's kick returns. There've only been 57 Super Bowls, and there have been 10 kick return touchdowns. So that's one every 6 games. That's pretty
This is
remarkable.
pretty high.
Um, it's almost like having Dante Hall or something back there at kick return.
Yeah.
The last kickoff return touchdown was Percy Harvin for the Seahawks against Denver in that blowout that the Seahawks had against the Broncos, 43-8 or whatever it was,
Hmm.
9 years ago. And Jacoby Jones had one for Baltimore, Devin Hester for Chicago, and then there were two apparently. I had forgotten about this completely in the Giants Baltimore game.
Really?
There's one, and the Baltimore Ravens had one, and the Giants had one. I think that might have been the only touchdown the Giants scored that day. It was like 30-7 or something in that game. But there's a kickoff return touchdown, and yeah, it goes back. But yeah, all of them have been since 1983. So there was none before 1983.
Hmm. So all of them were in that window.
From 83 through 14. So in
Yeah.
31 years there were 10.
Wow. So
And
one every three games during that era.
so yeah, it's been almost 10 years, and then it was about 15. It was about 17 years before that. Uh,
Wow.
so it's interesting, yeah.
That is interesting. But yeah, I definitely didn't think that the game was going to go that far over. That was 73 points was the total points for the game, and we had 50 and a half was the over under number. That's well over.
Yeah, what is the do you know do you know the highest scoring Super Bowl ever?
Don't know.
The highest scoring Super Bowl ever
It's
was
one of the Brady Bowls.
um was no, it was not, but it was very close actually.
Yeah.
So this is the third highest scoring Super Bowl with 73 points total. The second highest was the Eagles over the Patriots with Nick Foles and Tom Brady. Brady threw over 500 yards that game. It was 41-33. Um,
Wow.
the first highest scoring Super Bowl, however, was a total of 75 points. And it
Only
involved,
two more points though, huh?
yeah, the score was 49-26. It involved an AFC West team. Do you know which Super Bowl that was?
No, I don't
It,
know.
maybe I'll also give you this hint. It involved an NFC West and an AFC West.
Hmm.
This
I don't know
was the this
how
was
far back do we have to go for this
we
one?
were in high school
Oh, okay.
in 1995. The 49ers won 49-26 over the Chargers.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that Super Bowl. That was the Steve Young Super. That was the only Super Bowl that Steve Young won as a starting quarterback for the
okay.
49ers. Montana had won four. Young won that one.
I'd forgotten that the Chargers were in a Super Bowl then, so that's what.
Yeah, that was yeah. It was Super Bowl 29.
Hey,
And
who was the QB for?
yeah, I was going to ask you, who was the quarterback for the Chargers? Any guesses?
I can't think who it would be.
I'm going to guess Stan Humphries. I haven't seen yet. I'm looking it up right now. That's my guess. Was it Stan Humphries?
Hmm.
Yes, it was Stan Humphries. Okay. Uh, he was the quarterback then. Steve Young. Uh, and Steve Young threw for 325 yards and I think a Super Bowl record of 6 touchdown passes and
Wow,
no interceptions that game. Uh,
not bad.
yeah, 134.8 quarterback rating, slightly higher than Mahomes' 131 rating in this game. So he had even Mahomes finished with 131.8, uh, and Young was 134.8.
Well, that is a really high rating for Mahomes. I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Young.
only 182 yards passing though.
Yeah,
I'm
Young
surprised it's there.
also ran for 49 yards in that game.
Yeah, yeah.
Ricky Waters had a touchdown run for the uh, 49ers to get their other points. That was also a game featuring which current member of the Chiefs coaching staff as a member of the Chargers?
Really? Oh, as a member of the church themselves.
Yeah,
Is that the enemy then?
it is Eric Bieniemy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eric Bieniemy had one carry for 3 yards and caught one pass for 33 yards
Wow.
in that game. Natron Means was the remember him
I forgot about
was
that.
the lead back
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that game. Uh, which future Chiefs quarterback was the third quarterback for the 49ers in that game?
Oh. Oh. Let's see. Would have been like Gannon, maybe, or that'd have been no, it was before Gannon, right?
Right era.
Yeah. I don't know.
Elvis Gerback.
Oh, Gerback. Gerback. Yes.
That was he was the last of the three. Well, he was the third in the four major 49ers quarterbacks that have come over. So we had Montana, Steve Bono,
Right.
Elvis Gerback, and then Alex Smith
Not
for the
Smith, yeah,
Chiefs.
later.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big game. Yeah, Jerry Rice had 10 receptions, 149 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ricky Waters had a huge game, 47 yards with a rushing touchdown, 61 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. Um, yeah, it was a big game for the. That was when Deion Sanders was on the 49ers.
Yeah.
He had an interception in that game. He won yeah, he only played for the 49ers that one year. And then he went to Dallas.
Yeah.
I think that was that his only Super Bowl win?
Probably.
No, he won the third he won the next let's see. Uh, yeah, I think that might have been his only Super Bowl win because he didn't win with the Cowboys. He joined the Cowboys right after they
After
won
this
all their 3.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, with Troy Aikman and um, yeah, like, we talked about this. I was surprised looking at Troy Aikman's stats how mediocre they were
Yeah.
compared to a lot of other quarterbacks.
From the same era.
Yeah, because he was hyped up. He was always thought to be a very good quarterback, but he wasn't He just played on a very good team. It seems like.
Right. Well, he had a really good running back too to handle
Yeah,
all
Michael
that
Irvin
too.
and the great offensive line with like Larry
Yeah.
Allen and Nate Newton and
Yes.
all those guys. Jay
Larry
Northrup,
Allen, our high school English teacher, Larry Allen, right?
Larry Allen, exactly the same player. And then his son Jared Allen, also a fine
Yes.
NFL player, Hall of
Yes.
Famer. Was it Jared Allen? Did he make the Hall of Fame?
Um,
Is
I
he
don't,
still
I
he's
don't
still
think
in like the
so.
finalist
I think
kind
he's
of
still on
voting,
the.
right?
I think he's still on the finalist list.
Yeah, he didn't make it this year, so yeah.
Yeah.
Um, did you see who was in who made the Hall of Fame this
I
year?
did see the list. There was only one former Chief for one season was
Yeah,
all.
Darrell Revis, right?
Yes, that's right.
And I
He
guess
plays
you could
final
also
season.
say Zach Thomas, I believe, was an off-season pickup for the Chiefs, but he retired before. Like he was a after he left the Dolphins, I think he was in the training camp for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
And
opted for retirement instead of
yeah, I was
whatever the outcome would have been.
yeah. So it was Rondé Barber for the Buccaneers defensive back, Darrell Revis, Joe Thomas, offensive lineman, Zach Thomas, Demarcus Ware from the Cowboys. Um, and Demarcus Ware was booed at the Super Bowl when he was there because of the large number of Eagles fans. Did you
Yeah,
hear about who else was booed at the Super Bowl?
I saw LeBron James was booed. I guess right.
LeBron.
Yeah.
Also, Dak Prescott was booed
Yeah.
and he was receiving the NFL Man of the Year
Oh,
award for his charity work, and he got booed.
wow. That's kind of sad.
That's a little low, I
It's like
think.
the wrong time to boo somebody.
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott. Let me see what his uh, uh, Eagles fans booed Dak Prescott for his commitment to philanthropy and community impact. Uh,
That's why they booed him, right?
yeah, well, they booed. Remember they booed Santa Claus? Did you hear? You
Yes.
know that? Yeah.
So that's
Um,
one of the best stories.
what?
Booing Santa Claus.
That was 1968. Apparently, I didn't realize it was that long ago.
When they booed Santa Claus?
Yeah, it was the Philadelphia Eagles Santa Claus incident. It occurred in a game in the 1968 season between the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings, and it was in the final week of the season. The Eagles were 2-11, and the game was tied 7-7 at halftime. And so they weren't even losing the game. They were tied 7-7 at halftime. The team brought out Santa Claus as part of a halftime Christmas parade, and the Eagles fans, upset by the poor season, pelted him with snowballs. There was a large snowstorm. I left a lot of snow in the yeah, and apparently the guy would always dress the guy who dressed as Santa uh, for the last season, and it was or they would always dress up somebody as Santa, and he was oh yeah, so he was on this float that had a sleigh, and apparently it was because it had snowed, like it was too muddy, the field was, and his and, and the sleigh got stuck in the mud, so he had to walk, and then that's when they decided to pelt him with uh, snowballs, and yeah, and for Santa's sack, he was carrying like an equipment bag full of soggy towels, they say, and
For realism. Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
They also threw beer bottles, hoagies. The guy who played Santa, he was only 20 years old when he played Santa. He said he estimated that he was hit with more than 100 snowballs during his appearance.
Ridiculous. Oh, Philly fans.
But some people are blaming Santa himself because the Eagles public relations director said that Olivo was the worst looking Santa I've ever seen. Bad suit, scraggly beard. I'm not sure whether he was drunk, but he appeared to be.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah, so he was booed. So I guess there seemed to be a lot of the Chiefs were booed on the way out of the tunnel. I heard uh,
Yeah,
booed. So I guess it was a large. It seemed like there was a decent number of Philadelphia fans in
yeah, they were pretty
attendance.
loud during the game. But I mean, also a lot of money was on Philadelphia's side too. So the people that if there were a lot of people who had made bets on the game, they may not have been very happy with the outcome.
Oh, speaking of bets, we want to get back to our bets.
Sure.
We the bets we were the least well, I was the least successful on these bets that were uh the $100 bets. So we bet on the passing yard totals of each player. Mahomes was over under 292 and a half. Hertz was over under 238 and a half. I went over on Mahomes, under on Hertz. I missed both of them. Mahomes didn't even get to 200 yards passing, 187 or something, and Hertz
182,
was over 300.
304. Yeah.
You ended up getting Hertz. What?
Mhm.
So you got the one. What was it that you? What was it going in that you thought Hertz would have a big passing game?
I thought it would be that the Chiefs would be ahead so that the Eagles would have to be passing a lot to try to catch up. And then he would end up with accumulating a lot of passing yards because the Chiefs would be so far ahead. Wasn't the case at all, but the outcome ended up being the same for the bet at least anyway, because
Yeah.
plenty of yards, well over the 238.
Hmm. Yeah, he seemed like he had almost 238 in the first half or something. It was,
It was
I
pretty
don't,
far.
yeah,
But it helps when you have the ball for like 22 of the 30 minutes.
yeah, that does help.
It doesn't hurt. So the next set of bets that we had were on the running game. We had Pacheco 46 and a half rushing yards, Miles Sanders at 61 and a half rushing yards.
Hmm.
And you got this exactly right. You had over on Pacheco, under on Sanders. I had over on both.
Yeah, Pacheco ended up with 76. So he was almost 29 and a half over. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Sanders was way under. He only got 17 yards rushing or 16 yards rushing.
16,
Um,
yeah.
so 55 and a half or 45 and a half below. I went under partly because I thought that Hertz would have the majority of the rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe the way that the season had gone on, Sanders was getting less of the ball compared to Gainwell and
Yeah.
Scott. And they both Gainwell and Scott each had about the same number of yards as uh, Sanders. Gainwell had 21 yards, Scott had 8 yards. So
Mm-hmm.
um, Sanders was in between. But yeah, I was thinking, and that's why I thought maybe Hertz would be under in passing because he'd be running the ball more and get a lot of rushing yards. But he got a lot of rushing yards. He got 70 something, 70 exactly rushing yards. We'll talk about
Perfect.
that bet.
Awesome.
You have a bet on that later. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought, well, if he got a lot of rushing yards, I thought maybe he wouldn't have as many passing yards, and that's not what happened. So,
Yeah.
but it did happen. It did happen when affect Sanders in the way that I was hoping. So yeah, I feel good about the rushing prop bets.
Yeah, apparently. Right on the money.
And then we had the one receiving prop that we both did was Travis Kelce over 79 and a half yards. That looked like a sure thing after about one possession, but it turned out to be very close. He only had 81 yards
Yes.
total
One
on
and a
six
half to
receptions.
spare.
Yeah, one and a half to spare. Uh, and I went over on that one. And he went over as well.
Yeah.
Kelsey had a big game, but in the second half, he was pretty quiet. It seemed like that's who the Eagles decided to clamp down on. And I guess the Chiefs just didn't get very many yards in general. He got 81 out of the 187, so there was only 106 yards to go around to the other guys, and most of that was Juju. It seemed
It was
like
only 182 passing yards. So
182, yeah. So
yeah, there's only 101 yards to go around, which is
yeah,
even less.
yeah. So had
And
53 for Juju, 18 Justin Watson, 15 McKinnon, 6 for Gray, 5 for Tony, 1 for 4 for Sky Moore. So yeah, not very many.
but those last two were both touchdowns,
They
which is
were, they were.
hugely important plays.
Yeah, and both of those plays were so wide open and easy touchdowns. That was something to behold. Unfortunately, I was going to bet on Tony as an anytime touchdown scorer. I bet on him in the Bengals game when he almost caught that pass, but then he got hurt
Yeah,
on that play. And I thought, well, I don't want to bet on Tony because I would either
no,
he would
jinx him.
either get
Yeah,
hurt or I would jinx him. And neither of those happened. Maybe it's because I didn't bet on Tony. So I will, even though I didn't make money on any bets after this initial group of seven where I was 5-2. Uh,
yeah.
I feel like maybe I did help the Chiefs win. Uh, but you had a bet on Sky Moore touchdown, right?
I had a well, I had a Sky Moore punt return,
Oh, punt
punt or
return
kick
touchdown.
return, which did not
Oh,
happen. So I did
that did
not.
not happen. No, I was thinking Sky Moore touchdown you had, but that was a specific type of touchdown.
But your 5-2 run in these $100 bets actually pushed your phase two record up to 11-9 for the season. Plus $200 for your
With
$100
$200.
bets at least for
And
the
if I hadn't bet
playoff.
those prop bets in the AFC Championship, which were um, for $100, I would have been 11-7, which is
Yes.
400.
Much
So that's a good percentage. If I just had stuck to over unders and spreads, that would have been maybe that's what I need to do going forward when I become a professional gambler is to stick to those. And,
stick to those, yeah.
but you did well on some of those $50 bets
And
though.
on the $100 bets, I was only 4-3 in this game, but I had a pretty good record in the previous set. I was 8-5. Also missed those two prop bets last week, the 2 weeks before with the championship game. But yeah, so I finished 12-8 plus $400. One bet over your record thus
Yeah,
far.
thus far. But it will increase your lead with these minor bets because I didn't get any of the 50s. I had one of them was a Chris Jones sack in Kansas City win parlay. The Chiefs won, but there was no Jones sack.
Mhm.
I bet Watson getting a touchdown. That didn't happen. He had a couple of key receptions, but no touchdown. I had an alternate spread of Chiefs -6.5, which could have maybe come to fruition if McKinnon hadn't slid for uh, time purposes. I also had a field
Yes.
goal as a a field goal attempt ending the first drive. That didn't happen. Both teams got touchdowns, and then I had a money bet on the total points being an even number. Also did not happen in part because of uh, a missed field goal on the part of Harrison Butker in the first half. But the doink. Did you see
Missed
that
field
people?
goal. There was an opportunity for the Chiefs to go for 2 point conversion,
Hmm.
maybe to push the lead to 9. That um might have been a factor too. That could have helped it land on the other side, right?
Yeah, I thought maybe they should go for it, but then I thought, well, then I guess the Chiefs thought, well, they didn't make it. They'd only be up by 7, and maybe the Eagles would go for 2 and win.
Right.
And I don't know, but yeah, the Chiefs don't tend to. Andy Reid is not a real gambler on things like
Yeah.
that. So I, yeah, you were much more successful on these $50 bets though.
So we had kind of opposing bets. You had that first drive ends in a field goal attempt, um, where I had at least the first touchdown of the game could be either Kelsey or Hertz. And Hertz did score the first touchdown of the game.
And Kelsey scored the second one, so it was
Kelsey
it
so
was.
could have actually gotten that twice, yeah, but no, no. But that was a big win for mine, of mine anyway. It was a plus 320 bet on the $50 outlay. So that would have
you,
netted $110, $160 for the victory, plus the $50 back.
no, I think it's plus 160. You get the 50 back, and that's 160, right?
Well, if it's plus 100, you bet 100, you'd win 100, right? So you get your $100 back plus the hundred
Hmm.
dollars that
So
you
you
put
got,
in.
so yeah, it was plus 160. So you get your $50 back plus 160.
Right. So 210 was
Oh,
the
210. Oh, I
what?
think you said 110.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you said
No,
110. Never mind.
no,
Okay.
210 is like what I would have gotten back.
210. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. I just didn't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I did have number of players with pass attempts was two over 2.5. There was only one quarterback for each team. It threw a pass. No one else did. So I lost that one.
No.
I had a Mahomes rushing yards of over 19 and a half, which he did have. He had finished with 44 yards rushing.
And his kneel downs did not take him
He did
back.
have -7 yards uh, on the last two plays of the game, setting up the field goal attempt for Harrison Butker. And I also had a Hurts alternate rushing yards of 70 plus, which he landed exactly at 70 yards, which was a plus 280 that.
Good bet.
So I would have gotten $140 profit on that one. I also had Marquez Valdez Scantling alternate receiving yards of 60 plus, in which he had 0 for the game. So he was targeted once, but did not handle it. So that
Yeah,
would be good.
he was.
And then we made a lot of $5 bets. Each of us made 10 $5 bets. Uh, we did not get any of those, so we probably don't really need to go through those individually. Were there any of them that you'd like to draw out in particular that were close on?
Um, I was.
I guess the
No, it wasn't.
Kelsey first and last touchdown.
He got. Yeah, he only got one.
So
He got the
you got the
second.
first. You got the first touchdown for the
First
Chiefs
for the Chiefs, but I don't know. I think it might have been first, last touchdown of the game.
of the game itself. Yeah,
Yeah, that. So I thought. Yeah, some of the scores I wasn't that far off on for the Chiefs total, but for the Eagles I was. I thought maybe McKinnon might have a bigger day with like they had because I thought Mahomes would throw some short touchdown passes like he ended up
mm,
doing, but those short touchdown passes ended up going to wide receivers rather than to running backs. So
yeah.
the Tony and the Sky Moore one, and they thought maybe Fortson might play a role. His name was barely called, so it was yeah. Quez Watkins didn't catch the first pass either, so it was I just had a not very not a very productive $5 basis. But I was going for like big lottery tickets on those
Yeah,
mostly compared to you especially, but none of them ended up coming through. Same for you. None of the $5 bets came through for you. Any close calls?
I was pretty close on the Chiefs exact point score. I had 35. They were 38. It's like that was
Mm-hmm.
close, but not close enough to actually pay out. But that was relatively close, at least anyway. No safeties though. You know how there were like I think only a few plays that even took place inside their own 20. I think in the entire game there were maybe only a handful. So there's no risk of a safety at any point in this game. Is that
Yeah, no,
disappointing
unless
to you
yeah,
as it was to me?
yeah. I kind of wanted to. I guess. Well, I would have wanted the Chiefs to kind of get close to a safety, but there wasn't anything. Yeah, like it. It would have had to have been like a snap like over somebody's head and then kicked
Yeah,
or something. It was or like because there were very few punts and none of those punts were really that
really pinned back in their own
mhm.
zone. No.
Yeah, well that yeah, I guess that wraps up our betting competition. So you ended up what did you ended up netting how much on the Super Bowl? I broke even because I was 5-2 and then I lost my other $300 worth on I squandered them on uh you know ill-advised prop bets.
You
But
ended totally flat. Bet $1,000. You won $1,000. It's nice, right? You ended with
yeah,
$1,000.
yes.
Good. It's fine. I guess
But
I ended
you,
up plus $300 for the
not
for the
bad.
game, uh, which means I ended up plus $600 for the season then, which I'm pretty happy with.
And I was minus 100.
100, yeah, -100 on the season. Yeah.
So you won again, Dr. Scaff. There, you came out on top this round again. We'll have to see what our next uh season of betting holds. This is, we won't have any more NFL bets for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Any takeaways from the betting competition so far? From your own performance, the types of bets that you made that you will or won't make again. What's your takeaway from it? Are you going to
Well,
become a professional gambler tomorrow?
I guess I would say if I were to bet my own money,
Yeah.
I think I'm all right at spread and over under. I,
Yeah.
I I ended up finishing, if you include the regular season and the playoffs and Super Bowl, I would
Hmm.
have been above 500 on bets, just those types of bets.
Hmm.
And um, and I was particularly, I think, good in the playoffs. I was
Yeah.
3-1 on the spread over under in the championship games, and then 2-0 in this one. So I was 5-1 on the out of the last three games on those. So again, that may just be a lucky coin flip streak, but I feel like as the season went on, both of us we did a little better. We kind of had more information
Yeah.
about the team. So like if I were going to be a betting person, I would bet less early in the season and more later probably.
Yeah.
And I would probably also stick to,
Like Thanksgiving ish on
yeah, I
the
would
end of the
stick to
year.
I would stick to even odds types of things. Uh, maybe, but there's betting $5 here and there. I didn't end up losing that much on it, so it's a lot of
Right.
fun. Maybe if I had hit one of them, it would have been big. So I don't know
Yeah.
if I learned. I don't know if I really learned anything, but
Maybe just to make sure that if you're betting, you wouldn't bet everything on one bet. You would split it up at least a bit with
Mhm.
smaller amounts on the big payoff ones potentially. You're trying to actually
Yeah,
make money off of it, I guess.
yeah.
Is
If
what
I were actually make money, I also wouldn't go in thinking I had to make this many dollars worth of bets and allocate it in this way.
right.
Probably,
Or make a specific number of picks, because that's not really the
yeah,
way to do it.
yeah,
It works okay for the competition between us when it's not real money, but I probably wouldn't have bet things this way at least
yeah.
anyway.
I'm kind of interested in seeing how I would do if I had to bet every game,
Yeah,
uh, in terms of over under and spread.
to put like $100 on every bet on every game. Is that what you're thinking about doing?
Yeah, I don't want to try that. I would have to again do another dry run and kind of look at my
Yeah.
stats, what I would do. But it doesn't seem, even if like it's the games are so close and the margins are so slim. There's not a lot of
Of edge.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
randomness too, and
Yeah.
it's yeah. I don't think I could constantly get 54% or whatever I would need to make a profit.
So it doesn't sound like degenerate gambler is in your future.
If I had a lot of money, maybe I would be, but if it didn't matter if I lost money, I might do something like that. But how about you? Do you think you had even a little bit more success than I did? So
Yeah, I think I should try a little more than like actually make a couple bets at some point. All I have to do right now is log on from where I work, and I can make bets because my office is in Kansas.
yeah,
So I could be betting this whole time, but I have not. So
I
maybe
could be
next
too
season, I think
now,
I probably will make some bets.
either in Maryland or Pennsylvania, depending on where I am. Both of them have legalized it, so sports betting. So yeah, I guess it's possible, but yeah, right now I don't feel like I have enough money uh, to squander if I lose.
I don't consider much of my income as liquid, so
Yes.
or excessive. If only, if only we were both excessively wealthy, right? Then you'd be making all the bets you felt like it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of perhaps excessive income, we're talking about Sean Payton was hired for $18 million
Ooh,
per season for the Broncos.
he had a draft pick, right?
Yeah, and a first round and second round pick. I think
Jeez.
they got a third in return or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, are
Wow.
there uh,
Does that make him the highest paid coach in the league? Where does he fall? And do they have those numbers?
I'm looking right now. Apparently, Andy. So top 10. If this is uh, for next season, it's Nick Sirianni is number 11. Ron Rivera, number 10, about 7 million a year. Sean McDermott, Andy Reid are about Mike Tomlin are about 8 million a year.
Yeah, man.
Um,
So like 18 though for Sean
yeah.
Payton. Wow.
Uh, so yeah, Harbaugh is 9, they say. Shanahan 9.5. Pete Carroll 11. Belichick 12.5. Sean McVay, it says 15 to 18 million. And then Sean Payton here, I'm looking at this website that says 17 to 20.
Who is? Who's 17 to 20?
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton. Oh yeah.
Maybe it's,
Okay.
yeah. I saw 18 someplace, but that's a lot of money. I guess it's not as much as Patrick Mahomes or the starting quarterbacks, but usually I think coaches don't
Wow,
make as
those
much as.
those guys that are up that high aren't the ones that are the players that are coaches that are most successful right now either, are they?
Well, I guess you say McVay won last year.
Yeah, but what do they do this year?
Yeah, yeah. Belichick won a lot, but it hasn't done much in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Pete Carroll like kind of turned his team around. Shanahan's doing always pretty well, but yeah, it's interesting because yeah, it's in ways it's in a way it's the top coaches that you probably think are the best coaches are
yeah,
making on average more, but like I think once the numbers don't always line up with um the order of the top 10 coaches. I think
yeah.
maybe Reed is going to be getting more.
Maybe. Yeah. Did you like his comments after the game about asked if he was going to be back next season, and he said something to the effect of "if they'll have me."
I
It's like
think he'll be.
that seems like an odd. Like, is he worried that the team doesn't like him very much?
This was a
I
yeah.
don't think
This
he needs to worry about that. Do you think he needs to worry about that?
I don't think so. Do you think the Chiefs have, what are the Chiefs? I think the Chiefs right now are plus 550 to 600, depending on uh, what site you're at.
Yeah,
Uh,
but the odds-on favorite for
the
next
odds
year's
on,
Super Bowl.
yeah, Chiefs are 550. 49ers plus 600. Bills plus 650. Eagles plus 8. Bengals plus 900. And then it's a jump to the Cowboys plus 1600. Chargers 2200. Um, are you do you think that it seems like the Chiefs have a better shot uh, next year than they did at the beginning of this year because it was thought maybe to be a rebuilding type of
Right.
year. Do you think 550 to 1, 550, 5.5 to 1 is a good number for the Chiefs for next
I think
year?
I, I think I like making those bets when your team is the long shot, not necessarily the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the worst odds of all the teams really for in terms of like the payout that you would get. Right. So it doesn't seem like you're betting on the long shot as
Let me
much.
let me do the bottom 10, and then I'll see what you can tell me what you would think if you were going to bet money. Which of those teams?
Bottom 10 team, would you take a flyer on?
Oh yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
bottom one is Houston
I know
Texans
it's
plus
Houston is last, yeah.
it's 12,500 on a $100 bet. The
Okay.
Bears and Cardinals are tied for plus 10,000. And then you go up to the Falcons and Colts plus 8,000. That's the bottom five. Then you have three, the Commanders, Panthers, Titans plus 7,000. Seahawks plus 5,500. Steelers plus 5,000, along with a bunch of other teams: Saints, Patriots, Buccaneers, Vikings.
You yeah, of those, maybe Seahawks would be the most maybe more interesting of the teams, but I don't know why though. I mean, I wouldn't bet on any of those teams, I guess, right now, but
Those bottom teams, maybe the Bears because they have a better quarterback. Like, could you might think Justin Hurts could make a similar leap
yeah.
to Jalen? I mean, Justin Fields could make a similar leap to Jalen Hurts. I don't know. Um, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be for any of those teams either.
Right.
Uh, do you have any inkling about where the quarterbacks like we have some so Brady is out, it seems like. Of the free agent quarterbacks, we have
He
Garoppolo.
already. I still think it's weird that he said he's not going to start his announcing job for a full season. To me, that
Hmm.
makes it sound like he's keeping the option open to go quarterback somebody else.
You think so?
I think it seems it. If he decided he wanted to come back and play another season, and he had to get out of a contract
Yeah.
for a TV deal, it's harder to do that than it is to just
You
push it
you
back a year.
we did talk about last week. Puts plus 900 if you don't think he's going to retire. So you would put money
Yeah.
on plus 900, or would you put money on like plus 3,300 for a specific for the 49ers or for the Jets or the Raiders?
Oh, as to which team he lands on. Yeah, I still think that. Yeah, I think the most likely place that he would go would be like San Francisco. Would be my guess. It seems to be the best place, the best job if it's open for 1 year. That would
Yeah,
be to do
yeah, for
because they
sure.
have
I
such a
think
strong
they've
defense.
got the best roster.
Yeah,
Um,
good wide
and
receivers.
and
Yeah,
they're in the NFC, which
right.
is much in terms of quarterback strength at least weaker. And we have two jobs that are still open: the Indianapolis job, which I believe is going to Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, and apparently the front runner for the coaching job in Arizona was the Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon was the
Mm.
number one target. Do you think the Super Bowl might change that?
It could, but who knows? Yeah, who knows? Yeah, because the Eagles defense didn't look all that impressive, and if they want a defensive minded coach, which isn't necessarily the way that most of the league seems to be going with coaching hires. Um, yeah, maybe it does have an effect.
Would you switch it to Eric Bieniemy then, as if you were a Cardinal,
It
given
seems like
his
the enemy makes sense. It gets that tricky, um, you know, trying to evaluate the enemy as an offensive coordinator since Andy Reid does the play calling. It seems to be really apparently difficult for teams to decide how much of the Chiefs' success is related to the enemy and how much of his Mahomes and Reed. So it makes it really tough to try to tease that out. So, but I mean, it seems like he's deserving of a shot somewhere. So it'd
yeah.
be
It
nice
seems
to
like
see him get a head coaching job rather than having to make a lateral move to a place
yeah.
where you actually get to be the play caller. So I don't, yeah.
Reed was talking a little bit about it, but I think it seems like the Commanders and Ravens both have openings, and they
Mm.
under kind of defensive minded coaches that they would, if Bieniemy became the offensive coordinator, he'd be the chief play caller. Um, but I would say I think that Arizona uh, job might be one that they should take a look at him for. And apparently, he was an outside shot still at the Indianapolis job, but
Mm.
I think Steichen is supposedly the person they're going to go to. Yeah, it seems like he is someone who has been passed over a lot. And we saw that I showed you that Office Space video
Yes.
where he
What
was.
would you say you do here?
Why can't Mahomes just? Why can't Reed just pass the play directly to Mahomes?
I deal with Reed.
So Mahomes doesn't have to.
Sometimes doesn't
I
have
have,
to.
I have people skills.
What's wrong with you people? It's great. It's a great scene. Great movie. Yeah. I was going to ask you this question about Mahomes, Mike. He did win the MVP award shortly before the Super Bowl was announced. Uh, Ended up winning the Super Bowl MVP. Now it's two Super Bowl titles, 5 straight AFC Championship games. Where does Mahomes stand in his legacy now as a quarterback amongst all the great quarterbacks whose careers are completed at this point.
Yeah, I've been listening to people talk about this on talk radio and on different news outlets and things like that. It seems like I would say Mahomes is better than any of those quarterbacks in terms of talent and even if you have Montana or Tom Brady, it seems like Joe Montana, and Tom Brady are the ones that would be ranked ahead. For some reason, Terry Bradshaw doesn't get that love, even though he's won 4 Super Bowls as well.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of quarterbacks have won more with won 2 titles now.
Mhm.
You have John Elway, you have Peyton Manning, but a lot of those guys, like Elway, didn't win his until he was old and kind of was carried by Terrell Davis and a strong running game and good
Right.
defense. Manning was really the weak link on his Super Bowl winning team with the Broncos. He was replaced by Brock Osweiler for much of the season, and
Yeah.
um, so I you have Bart Starr or people like that that have won a lot of championships. Um, I think I guess I would agree with the kind of the conventional idea that you would maybe slot Mahomes behind Montana and Brady in terms of overall kind of resume.
Yeah.
How would you do that?
Well, yeah, it's a little bit unfair because Mahomes is only 27. It still has a lot of years potentially left
like if he
in his
retired
playing time.
now or was is like hit by like hit by a bus and couldn't play anymore or something.
He just stopped playing for whatever
Yeah,
reason. That he doesn't want to play anymore, even if that's the case, right?
I think if he doesn't
That's
want to play
still quite
anymore,
a career.
that would ding him if he just didn't want to play if he just walked away. I
Yeah.
think if there were a I don't want to wish a crippling injury or anything like that, but like if there was some sort of physical reason, like Gail Sayers or somebody did when he walked away, that like you know Andrew Luck walked away, but he just kind of left. He was
Yeah.
I think people would downgrade him for that, even if they would. But yeah, I think Mahomes is a Hall of Fame quarterback already in terms of um, his stats and his uh, hardware that he's accumulated.
He's now one of only 10 players who won multiple MVPs.
Yeah,
I believe that was the list. 10, I think, because or there
yeah,
were 10, maybe he's the 11th. Somewhere. It's something like that though. It's like there just aren't that many players who won more than one MVP award.
yeah. It says 10. So um, Mahomes is one of 10. Peyton Manning has won the most, 5. Aaron Rodgers, 4.
Yeah, for because he did two and two, right?
Yeah, um, and uh, and Brady, Jim Brown, Brett Favre, Johnny Unitas have all won 3. So he's tied with a few other people at 2. Um, so he's 3 behind MVPs behind Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I guess 5 Super
But
Bowls.
equal to Super Bowl wins already.
Yeah, there have only been 3 quarterbacks who have won. Like so in terms of Super Bowl MVPs, he's won 2 Super Bowl MVPs, which I don't really find that impressive because it's just one game.
Yeah.
That can be voted for anybody, but some people find that impressive too. Brady won 5 Super Bowl MVPs. Montana won 3, and Mahomes is tied with Terry Bradshaw, Eli Manning, and Bart Starr for 2. But I think he's only one of 3 quarterbacks to win multiple Super Bowl MVPs, or even multiple Super Bowls and multiple um,
MVPs.
like regular season MVP awards. Only um, Montana and Manning and Brady.
And it broke that streak of players who won an MVP who had appeared in a Super Bowl. I think it was the last 9 had lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Kurt Warner in '99, I think, was the only.
Yeah.
And actually, it was Kurt Warner almost did it again, but he lost to Tom Brady in Brady's first Super Bowl win. And kind of surprisingly, when Brady's won several MVP awards, but he did not ever win when he won the Super Bowl. Uh,
Yeah,
Both times he was defeated by Eli Manning in the Super Bowl.
right.
Two of the times anyway. Um, yeah, it's a he's a very very lucky. The Chiefs are very lucky to have him, and I feel pretty lucky to be a Chiefs fan. Uh, Let me ask you this question: do you know who the last non-quarterback was to win the NFL Most Valuable Player?
Ooh. Um, well, ooh. I mean, it's probably a running back, I would guess, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
defensive players haven't won in forever, as far as I know. So, but I don't know who it would be.
Uh, it,
Like Bettis or something?
give me one. You want to hit?
Sure.
He recently retired. It was in 2012 when he won, and he's a running back
Hmm.
in the NFC.
Oh, Adrian
It
Peterson.
was Adrian Peterson.
Okay, that makes sense.
And 2005, 2006, we had back-to-back running backs, Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson each won. Uh, Peyton Manning actually was co-MVP one of his seasons, so I don't think he should have five. He should probably have four and a half.
Four and a
Uh, he,
half. Yeah.
he shared it with Steve McNair, kind of
Yeah.
interestingly. Brett Favre, one of his three MVPs, was also shared with Barry Sanders. Do you know uh, there have been three non-quarterback, non-running backs to win the NFL MVP? The last one was in 1986. Any guesses?
I'm gonna guess that would have been Jerry Rice winning.
No, no wide receiver has won.
Is that right? Okay.
Two defensive players and
Defensive
one
player?
place kicker.
Place kicker.
Yeah, it was kind of like when like uh, closers could win MVP somehow in
Yeah.
Major League Baseball. It was that same era, like early '80s.
Wow.
Mark Mosley won MVP in 1982. He was the place kicker for the Washington Redskins. Uh, the Joe Theismann won the next year. Mosley that year had a record, I think, for um, he made a league leading 20 of 21 field goals, and it was the strike shortened year. So maybe that was,
Okay.
but he only missed one field goal all year.
Wow. Still, that seems crazy that they would that enough people would vote for the kicker for a kicker.
I guess
It's pretty
technically
shocking.
also George Blanda won MVP in 1970, but he was kicker and quarterback.
Yeah.
And it says Lou Groza also won before they actually had an MVP. It was like the Sporting News Player of the Year, and he was offensive tackle. And
Really?
uh,
Yeah, that's surprising.
but yeah,
What do you think is more likely?
1986 actually it was Lawrence Taylor who won the MVP,
Okay.
defensive
What do you think is more likely now? Um, a kicker or a defensive player to win an MVP
defensive player.
now?
The kicker's never going to win it. Okay, I think people are like,
You think a defensive player can win again? I don't. I would think that neither could win, really. But
well, I don't
maybe
think
it's more
either, but
likely, but it's still like near zero.
I think a kick. Yeah, I don't know if either's going to win, but I think a kicker has less chance because I think everybody realizes that kickers are fairly fungible,
Yeah,
and like people aren't as overwhelmed. Like they would have to kick like multiple 60-yard kicks, and somehow win the. I don't know. It would be remarkable if a kicker.
if a team went 17-0 and they won all of the games like 3-0 on
Yeah,
60-yard field goals, would that
yeah,
be the
maybe.
scenario?
Yeah, maybe then. Yeah, I think some. Yeah, Patrick. Well, yeah,
Or they
the
still give it to a defensive player for that same team?
probably they'd give it to defensive player. So they have Yeah, they have the voting for MVP for the uh, NFL, and I think so. Mahomes got 48 out of 50 first place votes,
Yeah.
and
Hurts got one.
Hurts got one, and Josh Allen got one.
Josh Allen got one. Yeah.
Nick Bosa actually finished sixth in the MVP, and he got one third place vote, three fourth place votes, 11 fifth place votes. Micah Parsons finished in seventh place. He got two fifth place votes. Those are the only two.
Did you see a non-player got a vote?
Oh yeah, Denny Kellington, like one of the trainers for the Bengals or the Bills that saved more him. I think that vote technically should be thrown out because it's for most valuable player, and if you're not a player, you can't be the most valuable player. Even if it's like a nice sentiment or whatever, it's still not a
Yeah.
player. So like I'd say like you can't just vote, Jesus or something because he's, you
Well,
know,
you think it'll happen where like everyone will go like, "Oh, that's a nice story," and then the guy that actually placed the vote will lose his ability to vote in future MVP races.
yeah, I'm gonna see who voted for Denny Kellington.
Yeah, is it all public or is it not?
It was a woman, apparently. No, no, it wasn't. No, it was. Yes, it was. It was Susie Colbert from ESPN
Oh,
who voted it. According to Rob Maaddi, he described the gesture as beautiful. Noted the vote did not affect the top five finishers, but
yeah,
I don't think that should be allowed. I think I would have rejected that ballot and said you have to vote for a player, and it's not as cute. It's not a feel good story that way. But I think if you're going to be voting for those awards, you should actually be voting for real players because like I think they used to not tally up the votes in that way. And they only would vote for one, but like it's
mm,
I don't know. It's like, yeah, I just don't. Why not vote for Damar Hamlin then?
right,
If that's what you want, like, I would disagree with that, but you could say, well, at least he's a player and he did these things. So yeah,
yeah,
okay, it's still a player. It's not what I would pick, who I would pick, but it's at least a player, and it says in the name most valuable player, and
yes.
you can't be a player. You can't be a non-player.
If it was an MVT award, was valuable trainer.
Apparently, it says in the AP's official voting nowhere in the AP's official voting guidelines does it say that only active NFL players may receive votes. But I would argue that it doesn't need to say it. It would be if a court of law interpreted it,
Yes,
they would
I
throw
was
it
gonna
out
say
because
this sounds like an attorney argument, really, more than anything
yeah,
else.
just because it doesn't say it outright doesn't mean that's because a lot of laws and bylaws are written poorly, but you're supposed to interpret them in a way that makes sense according to what you think the intent
The
of the
intent, yeah,
uh, legislators have. And I think the intent is that we're going to vote for the most valuable current NFL player. And if you vote for a basketball player from 50 years ago, that's not going to count. Or if you vote for it's one of
yeah.
those things. I'm
So is it now your goal to get to have a vote and then write in all like fictional players? Like, well, there's a player, but not in the active NFL.
yes. No, I wouldn't do that, but
Yeah,
it's a way to. I guess it's the AP, so maybe they can. It's not the NFL. It's not the actual NFL that's doing the award, so maybe
right.
if I would, maybe the NFL would, but like the AP probably maybe wouldn't. I don't know, but still, I don't think that's what the AP meant either. The Associated
No.
Press. So I would, behind the scenes, I would have given at least a stern warning
Or
to
just not accept the ballot and ask them
ask them to resubmit with five
to
players.
resubmit. Yeah.
Say it's not
With
it,
valid
it, it does not
options.
conform to the standards that we want. It's
Yeah.
like if they
I'm
had just
surprised
left
it isn't it isn't like you just have to like you. It's not just like a web page where they just like click a box of all the available players. Like you'd have to just like cycle through. You can only pick from players that are on the in the database.
Mhm.
It seems
Well,
like
it's
that's
like
how you would do most of those
yeah.
like voting
Well, it's like
things.
leaving five blank, really, and you're supposed to vote for your top five. You're not. You only voted for four.
Yeah,
You like, and that could. I think that the idea was that it didn't affect the standings of anyone, but like, you can't
right.
just have that because you don't know if it's going to affect the standings when it comes in. So it. I think you need to make that
Yeah, did any
determination.
of the votes come down to 1 point? Did any of the were any of the
No, so Mahomes had 400.
rankings falling within 1 point?
Well, the so Nick Bosa was sixth with 20 points, and then Trevor Lawrence had three, Parsons had two. Then there's a bunch of 1 point recipients. So
So I mean, it could have had an effect then, right? So
it could have reordered somewhere in the top 10. Like,
it's like somebody's contract may have had a stipulation about
mhm.
receiving a certain number of votes uh in the MVP balloting.
Yeah, I think Tyreek Hill maybe. If I had to, if, if you had to vote 1 through 5, what would your vote have been?
Um, just Mahomes number one, and then I just would have left four blank just to annoy you. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a regular season award too. It doesn't matter about
Yeah.
playoffs and things like that. So that would be hard. I would have put Mahomes at one. I don't know if I would have put Hurts at two. I
Yeah.
think I probably would have put if I had to put a quarterback. If I was going to put a quarterback, it would have been Joe Burrow. I don't think I
You might not want to
maybe.
put him two if you are a Chiefs fan, because that might, if Burrow ends up being close, you
Mhm.
might be giving him
I
two.
wasn't. I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't try to like rig it to. I would if I were an AP voter, I would try to be honestly rank the players.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I'd put Burrow two. I would probably put um Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson in some order, 3 and 4. I
Yeah.
actually might put Hill above Jefferson, even though Jefferson got a lot more. I think Hill's performance in the year was more valuable and dynamic because he didn't have a quarterback
Mhm.
all the time, and just what like he kind of got the Dolphins into the playoffs with because they had a capable offense with him there, and I probably just maybe I would have voted a defensive player, but I don't know if Nick Bosa. Probably Chris Jones. I might have picked just as a
Yeah.
defensive player if I had to pick a fifth one. If it was defensive and not another quarterback, maybe I would have voted for somebody like I don't know Josh Allen or somebody, but because like the Bills would be nobody without him, even though his season wasn't as good. Uh,
Right.
Something like that. I don't know. Maybe I would have put Hurts five, uh,
Yeah.
but I think that's what I would have done. Something like
Makes sense.
that.
Yeah.
Does this wrap up our Super Bowl coverage?
Super Bowl coverage in our season
In
two.
our season, our second full season of the Warning Track Power Hour, we will
Yes.
start season three. We don't know exactly when, but it'll be soon, and we will talk about baseball and maybe some basketball uh, as spring starts to heat up. And
Pitchers and catchers, I believe, reported for spring training today.
so maybe
So
we'll be back sooner rather than later.
yeah, we could be
We'll see
back
how
as soon as next week. We're
as
not
soon as
sure.
next week. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's any hot stove news or uh, craziness, we'll yeah, because
And
we
there
are
is
the
a
warning track
World
power.
Baseball Classic this season too, this year.
Oh yeah, and
It's very,
there's some
very
Royals
important.
playing
Hmm.
the
Yeah, a
baseball.
handful of Royals are participating.
Maybe we can talk a little about the World Baseball Classic,
Sure.
and that'll push the regular season back a little bit, right? Because it's usually during spring training.
I think spring training starting a bit earlier. Like the training camp opens a week early, I think, because of the WBC. So
It lasts from March 7th through the 21st. World Baseball Classic.
but I think the regular season still starts right around the 1st of April, right?
Hmm.
I think opening day for the Royals is what? April
March
March
30th.
30th.
March
Yeah.
30th, I see.
So
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, it's not pushing it back like at
Off
all.
the top of your head, who won the last World Baseball Classic? 2017 was the last year they had it because they haven't had it because of the
Oh, I
pandemic.
don't remember. Was it Japan or South Korea?
The United States,
US actually won? I didn't remember that.
US won. US won 2017, Dominican Republic 2013, Japan in both 2009 and 2006.
Okay. Well, I saw that Brady Singer and who another somebody else was representing the US this year from the Royals. But we can talk about that, next time, right? We
Yeah,
don't
we
need
can
to
talk about that. I know Salvador Perez is always in it
he's
for
yeah,
the.
but David as well.
I think Bobby Witt is playing
Oh
for.
wait, maybe that's it. Yeah, that makes sense.
There are 20 teams in this year's World Baseball Classic. We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh, you might be. Interestingly, uh, the Czech Republic are making their debut.
Yes.
The Great Britain, their first one as well,
Yeah.
uh, and Nicaragua are the debutantes.
Debutantes, yes.
And do you think we'll see Chesler Cuthbert on the Nicaragua roster?
From was it Corn Island? Was it?
Horn Island,
Yes.
Nicaragua.
Probably. Why not? Why wouldn't he be?
I
Is
don't
he,
know. Yeah,
is
I
he,
mean he's
well, if he's
retired.
still
I don't know.
if he's still like playing baseball, I would assume he'd be there. There can't be that many players from Nicaragua.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got an. I see if you look up Chesler Cuthbert on Google, the first
Yeah.
picture of him is in a Nicaragua jersey. So
Okay. Yeah, probably.
he plays in the Mexican League, so he's still playing.
Okay.
He's only 30 years old, so I bet he is on the team. Okay. Well,
Yep.
on that note, we'll preview our baseball coverage again. We are called the Warning Truck Power Hour, so we used to be at least as much about baseball as anything. Now we've kind of gone over to football, but still we have all sorts of sports we can talk about here on the Warning Truck Power Hour. And wishing you a fond farewell to this NFL season. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, also the Philadelphia Eagles, and to anyone who made money in their betting, like such as Dr. Scaff. And
Fake
we
money,
will
but whatever.
make fake money. Yeah, well, you're on your way. First it's fake money, then it's real money.
Yeah.
And until next season, which hopefully won't be too far away, we as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our many varieties of delivery options, be they, as I said last time, AV or just A. And until then, good day.